Jay Faith. Why don't you introduce yourself a little bit?
What's going on, y'all? My name is Jay Faith. I'm a hip hop Christian artist from Massachusetts, co-member of Minds of One Collective Genius. I've been making music since about 2013, and just excited to be here and talk with you and share a little bit about what I do.
Why don't you tell me a little bit about how you started off with music?
Music, honestly, I started with poetry.
Oh, okay.
I was writing poems for a girl, trying to win a girl over, and eventually, just the love of hearing artists like DMX, it started to turn into raps, and there was a point I wanted to be a part of Rough Riders. Big dream obviously is probably not going to happen, but that's okay.
R.I.P.
And
DMX.
RIP DMX for sure. And it just I was working with people, it didn't work out, and then one of my friends said, "Why don't you just be a solo artist?" And I said, "All right, man, I've never done it before, but here we go." And 2013 is when I released my first project. I recorded it, mixed and mastered it myself. It sounded terrible, but I mean, you got to start somewhere, and that's kind of where it all started. We were talking off air. Meeting Cody Pope got me into my first couple of shows, and then from there just went into networking with a lot of different people, and finally landing with Minds of One Collective Genius, and just expanding the network even crazier. And here we are, 7 albums later, and continuing to put music, perform. I do a podcast as well too, so it's trying to just bring music, connect people with music, as well as just connecting people to people, which has always been something for me that music has done for me, is just that connection, that sound, those songs that you hear, and it brings you back to those moments when you first heard that song or when you were going through something or whatever. And so that for me is my direction when it comes to music, you know.
Yeah, no, 100%. I feel like music brings out like a different side of people too. It can connect them to one another. Like I feel like, you talk to some person you never met before and you wind up liking the same artist or something. You're instant buddies. You can just chat with them for hours about that musician and kind of just get a vibe for the person just based off the music they like. Um, why don't you talked a little bit about DMX? Why don't you tell me about some of your other inspirations?
I mean, it's definitely changed a lot over the years. I mean, you get introduced to so many different music, and obviously music has been changing a lot, as we've seen. So, start, DMX to Eminem to, Most Def, to Swizz Beats to now, you're getting into NF, KB, Indie Minio, those kind of Christian hip hop artists. Along with just, J. Cole has, definitely been another one. Joe Budden is a big one of mine too, that a lot of people know, just off the storytelling that these people brought. I know sometimes, like you hear Eminem and some of his stuff is a little bit crazy, but
Yeah.
when you really dive into, the storytelling and speaking about his life, as well as, some of the other artists that I named, it really starts to hit you, and again it makes that connection. And then for some, there was just a lot of artists, it was just studying how they wrote, why they wrote what they wrote, rhyme schemes, flows, all that stuff. So some people, it was really making that connection, and then there were some that it was time for me to sit down and study a little bit.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. I feel like too, like Eminem, everybody knows who Eminem is, of
Hmm.
course, but like a lot of musicians don't really have that um have their story as much out there as like everybody knows Eminem grew up in Detroit, he had a rough life with living with his family, stuff
Right.
like that. But like MNF, his story isn't as much out there. Like you said, Joe Budden, like there's so many musicians that don't have their story as out there, which is why I feel like a lot of people can't always like understand where their music is coming from too.
Yeah.
Understanding the artist is a big part of understanding their music as well.
Yeah, and that was the biggest thing for me too, when finding artists that I like. It was also kind of seeing who they were, like if they do interviews, if they do freestyles, if they do, if they have documentaries or whatever, or watching videos, you can even get a little bit of piece of who they are. So for me, like the artist that I really connected with was like tapping into them a little bit more. Again, going back to DMX, seeing his what was it, VH1 behind the music, and seeing that and seeing a completely different side and being like, okay, this isn't just the hardcore DMX that everybody sees. This is there's such a deeper level, And I know that I have that with myself, and I want to share that with people when it comes to the music.
Well, you talked a little bit about shows. Why don't
Mhm.
you tell me about some of your first shows that you started off doing?
Some of the first shows I had, as I mentioned before, shout out to Cody Pope over
Who, by the
at
way, will be my guest next month coming onto the
Nice,
show.
nice. Over at Hellhound Publishing, he's been a great friend of mine, as well as just a great mentor when it came to first coming onto the music scene and helping me get a lot of my first shows. And I mean, I was nervous. I was, forget, as any typical, artist starting out, you're forgetting your words but I took it as a learning process and just growing. And, Cody was definitely one of those people too, to just be like, hey man, like maybe you should try this, maybe you should do this. So, I definitely owe a lot to Cody for a lot of the, and getting into the initial shows and really starting that and kicking things off.
Yeah, no, nobody really like you can be an independent artist, but doesn't necessarily mean you need to do everything independent either. Like when I
Correct.
first started off taking photos, I didn't really know a ton of people, but like I met one person, and then a whole chain effect happened where I met
Mhm.
another person, and this person introduced me to this person. Um, I met Joe at Just for Kicks at a show, and then I ended up meeting Justin Clancy, and I ended up meeting another photographer buddy of mine, and it just ended up being this whole chain of effect of one person, you start meeting everybody else, and even though you do the work yourself and you're putting the work in, knowing people and knowing people in the industry and letting them kind of like help guide you a little bit is really important.
Mhm. Yeah, because I mean, when I met Just for Kicks, it was at a Cody Pope show. Just for Kicks was doing Mind Spray, and he was hosting it. And I liked his charisma, who he was as an artist. And I just hit him up and was like, hey man, like we connected at the show. And after I hit him up and was just like, hey man, like would love to work with you at some point. And was like, yeah, we did check it out off of one of my projects. And eventually it just molded into joining MoCG, and it's been history ever since.
What would you say is like a message you try to put out there with your music?
I mean, with my music, it's definitely a message of one of perseverance, especially the things that I've gone through in my own personal life, just to keep pushing forward with whatever it is that you're going through. It will get better. I know it's hard to see sometimes when you're going through the muck, but it will get better. Just try to stay focused on getting out, not so much the problem that you're in. I know sometimes it's easier said than done,
100%.
but try to focus on what you can do to get out of that situation versus just, oh, I'm stuck, I'm stuck, I'm stuck. And then the other part is just glorifying God and just thanking him for everything that he's done for me in my own personal life, my own growth, and just giving me the talent to be able to create music and have a platform to be able to do so.
Yeah, me and Just for Kicks talked quite a bit about this subject too, where we went over how, you have those moments where you feel like, things aren't really looking how you want them to be. And, you know, I'm not exactly a religious man myself, but I do believe everything happens for a reason. And I think that if you go through those hard times and keep pushing forward, you'll really find the light at the end of the tunnel.
Mm-hmm. And it teaches you something. I think that's what a lot of people miss is a lot of times when we go through these difficult times, it's to teach us something. And when you really reflect on it, you're like, oh man, like one, I didn't realize I could get through it, but I can. And there's usually some sort of lesson that is tied to it.
Oh yeah, I always believe that life doesn't necessarily you don't necessarily make mistakes in life. You have lessons from life, and
Mm-hmm.
you
For
grow
sure.
from those. And I've met musicians who are in their 40s and 50s who feel like they know it all, and I'm just like, I don't know, like you can say that, but do you really like know it all? Like
Mm-hmm.
like you can't tell me that you don't wake up and learn something new that day.
Yeah, you always have to be a student. That's one thing that I've always learned is you definitely have to always be a student. There's always things that I'm trying to pick up on, whether I'm sitting in the studio and working with Mertz or, just recording and stuff like that, or just like being out and about and just taking things in and always being willing to learn, and not, and like you said, like not saying, oh, I know everything. I don't need to do that because again, the just music in general, it has been changing over the past, 2 decades, and you got to keep up and you got to learn, what is trending, or, how to upload, upload a new different way, and stuff like that. So, you have to, as things are changing, you have to change with it, or unfortunately, or, you're going to be left behind.
How do you feel about like the current state of underground hip hop and independent musicians after like the pandemic? How do you think it affected them?
I mean, I think it depends on. I think it depended on the person. The reason I say that, you could have taken COVID and just sat and waited, or you could have been that type of person that said, "Let me get prepared," and kind of have a more positive outlook on it. Which, I mean, at one point we were like, we don't know what the heck is going to happen, but having kind of an outlook and looking forward and being like, we'll get out of this, and what am I going to be ready when the world opens up? So, I think for a lot of people, they definitely hit the ground running, whether it was learning different skills because you just had to, because you couldn't link up with your producer or your videographer at the
Yeah.
time. And, now you're learning video editing and, kind of picking up little different skills. And, I think artists now post COVID have definitely transitioned into this kind of, I have to learn everything in order to function. And one thing that I do want to say, and we were talking about this on my podcast recently, is I think we have to try to kind of take a step back. And like we said, like, you don't have to do everything as an independent artist. Take a step back, outsource where you can, save yourself the time. Not that you're losing the knowledge. It's okay to learn what those things are and how to navigate and how to speak the language. But, use your time wisely. If you can, send a video off for somebody to edit instead of you doing it, now you can work on a verse or work on a song or make a network connection, something like that.
Yeah.
Where, you can kind of divert yourself into different areas instead of trying to do every single little thing, which could slow you up.
Yeah, no, time management is a big part of it. If you're just sitting around doing nothing while you're waiting for your track to come back from, like you said, like your producer or something, like you're gonna, that time you're sitting there, you could be doing other things. It really just all depends on how your mindset is and how you view things and how you handle your time in those moments of downtime.
Yeah. But I think independent artists are really trying to push forward and, you know, even more get the respect that they deserve of just, them and what they do, what they accomplish without the type of budget that people expect. And like we said earlier, getting people to recognize what it really takes to be in this type of industry. And it's not all just hitting record and putting a song out. Some people do that, and that's their own cup of tea. But for those that really take it seriously, and are trying to do the videos and the promo and the networking and the, trying to get their music out there, there's a lot of steps that go into that. And, as artists, we just want people to understand that and support it in that way.
Yeah, and social media has played a big part in that too, I feel like, too. Like 15, 20 years ago, social media didn't play nearly as big of a part in musicians' lives as it does now. But I feel like, like you said, everything's evolving, times are changing. Where we are now, social media is a huge networking thing for musicians and a big part of, putting their music out there, like TikTok, Facebook, all that stuff. Using it to get your music out there and be heard is a big part of it. And if I feel like, you can just go to shows and sell CDs and stuff like that, but really putting your music out there on platforms. Because I've met musicians who don't even post anything on YouTube and just expect for them to blow up. Like, I feel like really putting your music on platforms is a really important part of the job. I'm no musician, but I've seen plenty of it. So
Sure. I mean, the more places that it's visible, I mean, the more people, the more opportunity you have to get connected. But with the way music is now, everybody's making music, so it's, you do deal with, on the other side, on the flip side of it, it's, you do deal with, just the algorithm of Instagram and people's followers. So like you can put up a post and share and do this, but it's like now you're dealing with your 1,200 followers, 5,000 followers on top of somebody else's 1,200 followers. So it's like, where does yours filter into theirs in order to get the attention that it deserves? So I mean that that's some of the challenges that I hear from people, and I see in my some of the stuff that I do, but you just kind of do a little bit of mix of both, or a mix of different things. Like you said, like go to shows, network through Instagram. After seeing people at shows, and keep kind of the contact. What I've been trying to do is, people that have been liking my posts, just like reaching out and saying, hey, like I really appreciate the support, even if it's like 15 people, the same consistent 15 people.
Yeah, no, like you hit me up the other day and was just like, hey, thanks for liking the post and hitting, saying, fire emojis. It's just like simple stuff like that can boost the algorithms too.
Yeah. And just, I want people to understand that I see them and I do appreciate what they're doing, even if it is just the 15 people, like y'all 15 people, like,
Yeah.
rock the show. Without y'all, I'm nothing. I'm still going to make music regardless,
Yeah.
but, it's good to see people that are genuinely supporting. So I just want them to know and understand that I appreciate it too.
Yeah, no, and I feel like every musician started off with, 5 people, an empty crowd, there wasn't
Mhm.
anybody cheering them on, but like they kind of persevered through that and ended up selling out shows. For one I can think of is Justin Clancy. From what I've heard, when he was starting off, not a lot of people knew him. He was just a kid out of Boston,
Mhm.
and then he ended up packing shows eventually. He pushed through those hard times and started packing shows. Now he's touring all over the place. And on the subject of touring, what have you done touring wise? Why don't you talk about that?
I haven't really done much touring lately. I do a lot of local shows right now. That's definitely, the vision moving forward. I think I've done my own personal rebranding, whether it's out there, but, just like kind of rebranding myself, a new way of thinking of how I want to approach things when it comes to just creating music, trying to get it out there. But, it's definitely something that has been discussed, especially with like people from OCG, um, and stuff like that. So, definitely a goal of mine to get to. I'm just trying to be patient
Yeah.
and, do it in the right time when I know just everything is where it needs to be.
Yeah, you want to make sure you have the biggest impact you can when you go on tour, rather than you go on tour and then like you have this idea of having a bunch of people coming up to you and be like, hey, I know you, and so like that doesn't always happen,
Mhm.
So setting things up so that way they line up right, and marketing wise it works out is important.
Yeah, I just don't want to, you don't want to get out there, like you said, certain expectations, and then you get out there and it's not what you thought, or you just, not saying that I couldn't hack it, but like just when you get out there, what things change, your feelings could change, so just making sure that you're just mentally ready for something like that, because it's a big undertaking. I remember Just for Kicks talking about going on tour and just what that entailed of them, driving around and the night after night, and hitting, it can be tiring.
Yeah, especially depending on like the size of the tour. You go from one state to another, long car drives, very minimal sleep. You wake up, you practice with the band, you get ready for another show, and then it's a repeat thing. You just
Mhm.
every back to back shows. I mean, some people will do 2 shows in one day too, and then you just have limited time to get to the next state, and it's mentally taxing.
Yeah. So just preparing myself, and I'm also just working on a lot of like business side things, making sure those are squared away. So again, if I, when I go on tour, all those things are in line, and, all my ducks are in a row. So, if any challenges come up, or just being more professional with it, I took the time to grow as an artist, learn the craft, and again, I'm still always learning, but now it's time to kind of take care more of those business side things and making sure those things are squared away so that everything is just formatted the way that I want to and just in line the correct way.
Circling back to shows, I know you talked a little bit about Cody Pope. Any other really turning point shows you'd say you've had?
I mean, I had a lot of fun. I've opened for artists like Joe Budden, Mr. Lift, acrobatic. And again, those are scenarios where you just take it and learn and just enjoy the experience. Seeing the way they perform, all different styles of performing, and just taking that in and literally just taking mental notes of anything just made me better as a performer, and seeing stuff like that. And I would say the other thing is, I mean, I've done a show where it was just me and the two other artists that were performing, and is that tough? Absolutely. When again, you're expecting people to show up.
Yeah.
The show is promoted for. The promoter, did what they had to do, whatever, and it's just you three. But you learn to take it with a little bit of grace, and you just go and do your thing, because you're gonna remember that when you performed in front of two people, to when, like we were talking about earlier, to when you're packing out shows. And it was a humbling experience. But all three of us, we enjoyed each other's company, each other's music, and performed as if the room was packed, and just enjoyed and embraced the moment.
Yeah, no, I mean, being a musician, I mean, from a comparative standpoint, it's like any other career, if you think about it. You start off at one position.
Mm-hmm.
You may not be, top, you may not be an open heart surgeon yet, but you start off as a basic doctor that might just be doing some basic stuff.
Right.
And then you eventually get to that point where, oh, you're ready to do the next step, and you can actually evolve to become better at what you want to do.
Yeah. Just being patient.
100%. Show-wise, any favorite venues that really stand out to you?
Middle East is always a good one. Jewel up here in Manchester is another great one. I love love the setup, just the stage, the sound, everything is just.
They have a nice 2-stage venue there.
Yeah.
They have a little back spot there.
Yeah, I've done the back spot too. That was a good time too.
Yeah, no, I like the Middle East. They got some good food right next door too.
Very true. Always good. Good food always helps.
Yeah, 100%. I mean,
Yeah.
I can't do anything without good food.
Absolutely. But yeah, those two probably some of my top two kind of favorite. I know they're kind of the industry standard around here.
Yeah,
as
no,
far
I feel
as
like they're. I
places
mean,
to go.
but like that's also like if they're industry standard and you perform at them a lot, you grow a liking to them. I mean,
Yeah.
that's with like me with the Shashkeen. When I
Mhm.
first started off doing photos, I really took an interest in a certain booking company, Full Blast Booking.
Yep.
I worked with them, and a lot of the shows they did in Manchester with the Shashkeen. So I just ended up becoming a big fan of the Shashkeen, because that's where I was around. Like you said, industry standard. If it's really pushed for certain shows, then you can really take a liking to those kind of venues. Electric Haze is another nice one.
Yep. I remember Electric Haze. Shout out to them over there.
Yeah, no, the
Chef's
vibe in
Kitchen.
there is really cool, honestly. The whole jellyfish on the ceilings and stuff.
Mhm.
I mean, just that's what I like too about different venues, is getting an understanding of like different aesthetics of venues, and
For
the
sure.
different type of sceneries that certain venues can. I mean, that's important with touring too. I mean,
Mhm.
if you're touring, you're gonna see a lot of different places and a lot of different setups. And some places might be smaller and not have as much of a crazy aesthetic to them. Some places might be huge and have their own theme to them. Understanding that change is a big part of it too. Change is a big part of really anything we do in life, whether it's touring, music, it's just like the music culture evolving.
Mhm.
Everything revolves around change. So,
Yeah, you just got to be willing to adjust.
oh yeah,
Without changing who you are as a person, but just
being adaptable.
being adaptable. Absolutely.
Why don't you tell me what songs you'll be playing here?
So I have one of the first songs I'll be playing is actually, this will be the first time I'm performing it, so I'm super excited. It's called Acre to the Burbs. It's a shout out to my mom, who's a single mom, took care of me my entire life, and just did everything that she could as a single mom to raise me to be the person that I am today, and I'm just forever grateful for her being in my life and everything that she's done for me. So
Yeah, shout out to single moms, because it's a
Absolutely.
tough job, and honestly, they don't get nearly enough credit.
absolutely. I have questioned my character. Again, it's one of those songs where I want people to not judge people right off the bat, but kind of get to know them and understand them because sometimes people maneuver in a certain way because of things that they've been through. And a lot of times people just react without trying to understand, at least get an understanding
Yeah.
of why. So, there's a lot of things that I've been through. So this is why I am the way I am. So don't just question my character.
Yeah,
right
everybody's got a path in life that leads them to where they are.
Mhm.
So,
Third one is lessons from the darkness. One of the things that I actually thought of fairly recently was, when you think of a seed, when it first starts to grow, it doesn't grow in the sunlight. It grows in the dirt, in the dark. So, sometimes you have to sit in the darkness in order to grow. And, for me, I went through a lot of tough times, just mentally, and even just in life. And, I thought those were moments that, I wouldn't be able to make it out. But, there were a lot of lessons that I learned through that process and, was able to grow and just overcome those and, just be at a better plane in my head and my life.
yeah, life is just a big series of lessons, and we kind of got to take what we can from it.
Mm-hmm. And then the last song is called Boulevard. It's a shout out to the Lowell Boulevard, which is literally 2 minutes from my house. It was a place that I could go to whether I was going for a run or, really just a place where I could just mentally release. If I just needed to go for a walk and just kind of get out of the house, get out of my head for a little bit, whether it was raining or not, or just sitting in my car and just, watching the water, move down the Merrimack River and just try to, find some peace for a little bit. And just a monumental moment for me it was the first time sitting in the parking lot that I got to talk to my dad on the phone for the first time. So that was where I had my first ever conversation, via phone with my dad. So it was kind of just one of those moments for me, and that's been just a special place. So I try to wrap this up. Want people to be able to have that place or that outlet to be able to, because mental health is important. So
Yeah, no, mental health is something that doesn't really get talked about enough. So, really a lot of powerful messages in your songs, from the sounds of it, and I'm looking forward to hearing it. Why don't you tell people where they can find your music and where they can find you social media wise?
for sure. So you can find all of my music on streaming platforms, Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube, all the fun stuff where you'll find your streaming stuff. And then you can find me usually mostly on Instagram at J_faithofficial. Feel free to shoot me a DM and just chop it up. I'm always here to just have conversations and connect with people.
All right, well, I'm going to hop on out of here, and I'm going to let you do your thing, man.
For sure, man. Appreciate
Thank you
it.
for coming on the show.
Thank you for your time, man.
What's the cash without the cream? What he needed, yeah, you got it. Simple nurture of a seed. I rose to be a man possessing childish tendencies. When I was wrong without correction, point that it would lead to late nights, home late, stories to investigate. Times you bailed them out, aggravated to a higher state. Me and it was you, that was all you ever needed. I'm sorry for the pressure you ingested for my freedom. I had to meet the man who was half of who I am. It don't negate the fact you filled the spot where he would stand. Dedicated 40 years, supporting 30 of mine. Heart to heart to get me closer to the edge of my prime. What's next in line? I can face it like no other. Thanks to my soldier savior, importantly my mother. Yeah, my mom, she made probably all my sports games except for 2. And it killed her. And, she worked 41 years at a job, and it just told me that success takes time, and we just got to be patient with it. But it'll happen if you work hard at it. So, shout out to my mom. This one's for you. It's the first time performing it. Appreciate you and love you. What's up? You set the way. I follow in your footsteps and not go astray. From the acre to the burbs, acre to the burbs. You came a long way from the acre to the burbs. Look at you. You set the way. I follow in your footsteps and not go astray. From the acre to the burbs, acre to the burbs. You came a long way from the acre to the burbs. Once again, shout out to all the single moms. Appreciate all that you do. Salute to y'all. What's going on, y'all? This is called Question My Character. Get to know me before you try to judge me a little bit. Let's go. You gotta understand the process before you get to know me. Yeah. Yeah. Looking out my window, blue house was like the crack spot. Moving in a new home, reaction was a shell shock. Passages being passive among savages. Lying in the making, cause the king is chasing after it. My letter hit the box, September 05. He responded, I was scribe until my cell arrives. Immaculate, so perceptions on the up and up. You ain't have a father with you, boy, toughen up. Had kids call me gay before I knew what it meant. 25 years of marriage and she constantly content. I was a jock, many women never looked upon. Many men in my playlist was my favorite song. Posters, inserts, musical murals. R.I.P. to Chester Bennington. Your music was an epidural. I'm on my knees, confirmation, hoping no one knows. Reaching for a reason, achieving on tippy toes. You think you only know, but you have no idea. Don't question my character. Yeah. Postmark to push the envelope to never date. Soaking sun rays, making negatives evaporate. Facing checkmate, evaluating strategy. 97 Bulls Jazz, what an epic rivalry. Switching speakers, the Solera couldn't do me wrong. Till I got blindsided, now the whip is gone. Mall trips just to walk around and buy some teas. The wrong lips sink ships that you tried to please. Destined for hell, consideration from a higher source. We've been talking back and forth for another course. Lost family members, conditions of my expectancy. Expecting trials, examining my resiliency. Cut the ribbon, refuse to finish where you start. Leave behind a trail longer than a bad fart. Haha, sorry I had to laugh. I knew believing in myself would convert into gas. Walked in my shoes, paid my bills. Living every day like it's shoot to kill. Don't question my character. Yeah, if you never read my thoughts or faced my fears or know why I changed in the last couple years, don't question my character. Don't question my character. I forget I'm 31. Brittany Murphy left at 32. Nipsey Hussle, Chris Farley, 33. What a clue. Honestly, almost hung it after tape 1. Dismeddled members never bite the hand. Rule of thumb. Picked up a rose when convening with a poke. Convenient sign of smoke I could see from a boat. Expanding my reach like an old school Armstrong. What's the harm in keeping calm and just carry on? False alarm, all love lost when I met the rage. In the end, it's all business, new stock trade. Resupplying from placing a couple contests. No denying I doubted my own conquest. My armrest is barely used cause I'm always on the move. Win or lose, some will still remain confused. I'm levitating while waiting on my collective. You're all caught up, that's a journey respected. If you never walked in my shoes, paid my bills, living every day like a shoot to kill. If you never read my thoughts or faced my fears, or know why I changed in the last couple years, don't question my character. Get to know me first. We gotta go through the darkness sometimes for us to grow. That's how seeds grow, right? Yeah. Listen. I'm always in development, digging out my element. Went through hell and back just to see why I was relevant. Abusing sentiment, crying shoulders for a listen. Excuse the intermission, had to make a rendition. Moving forward with the flick of a wrist, I had to make an assist. I think I'm being remiss if I acquiesce. I only came with a backpack, rounded like a flapjack, avoiding all them flashbacks. Plan of attack, avoid swimming the cash flow. Walking with a bad soul, hole soaking backflow. Running up a tab as I'm drinking down the stress. Begging comrades to help me out of this mess. Compressing well between a rock and a hard place. Using stones to tread water is an odd race. Paint a better picture, but my canvas is dim lit. To track your progress, you need more than a Fitbit. Now, what's it gonna take when it's all at stake? When the dominoes fall and you're about to break. When the enemy's near and the pain is the harshest. Will you trust the light that was birthed from the darkness? There's so much to know, only light can show what was meant to grow. These were lessons from the darkness. These were lessons from the darkness. This book of rhymes earned the highest of praise. Way before a broken spine, cold emotion engaged. Turn a page sounded like a turn of phrase. Using words of wizardry to improve our resumes. I could capture time, hold it up for all to see. You had a choice, either marvel or be appalled at me. Go on for hours digging deeper for the perfect gem. I'm not sure if it was worth it in the end. Almost there. Scratch that, write it again. Hold up, damn. I need another pen. Indentations left behind would be covered by future pain. Moments of insanity went against the grain. Once in a while I fall asleep, set my conscience free. Constantly owning up to mine with apostrophes. Wet lips to speak a simile. Yeah, listen, what would it say? I've witnessed thoughts of suicide. Joys to be alive. Started from the bottom, head up to the sky. Lonely days surrounded by a million friends. Once I'm open, the journey begins. Now what's it gonna take when it's all at stake? When the dominoes fall and you're about to break. When the enemy's near and the pain is the harshest. Will you trust the light that was birthed from the darkness? There's so much to know, only light can show what was meant to grow. These were lessons from the darkness. These were lessons from the darkness. Yeah. I want to thank y'all one last time for tuning in. This is my last one. It's called The Boulevard. This was my place to just take care of my mental health, to let go. So I hope that everybody finds their own space, their own person, their own outlet to be able to let go. I know for me it was that boulevard and just sitting and talking to God. Yeah. Let's go. Shout out to Lord Mass. Shout out to the Boulevard. Yeah. As I move along the grooves intercepted by tall grass, I define a lifespan too fast. I feel like 30 came early to the terminal without a carry-on, ticket or personal. The first call from the views of a lot. 20 years to rediscover who each other and whatnot. He adored what I would try to ignore. After cheating on the weekend, she had little rapport. Race to hit the pavement, I was lost for a couple hours. Taste of going back was coming off sour. Lights were losing power about 9:45. I was walking in the rain when the pain set in. Another night, another fight, minimizing my time. Getting home, I felt alone, being crowded in my mind. On my deepest nights, park bench to myself. Catch me talking to the sky when I had nothing else. Yeah, where the waves crash, get me closer to God. My only lifeline when the times are hard. I'm doing fine with a pretty facade. Give me about an hour on the boulevard. Don't wait up, unless you part of the fight. Be sure to fill you in when the timing is right. Now, I'm doing fine, but the times are hard. Give me about an hour on the boulevard. On the boulevard. On the boulevard. Nowadays, if it wasn't for the beat to keep my heart going, I might be a rabbit beast with my teeth showing. Holding down weight, I release on a boat dock. Cruising down the 113, letting the bass knock. Now and then I hear stories echo off of concrete. Music to my ears, freestyle on repeat. I was meeting sunsets until the moon intervened. Disconnecting life, was it all a dream? Prayer to my father, kiss the sky goodbye. Left some bad relationships on the gutter and curbside. Touching graffiti, there's beauty in every crack. Seeing hearts along the path, I could find my way back. Felt the sweat evaporate from a cold wind blow. Sending chills down my spine, forced to have me let go. Splitting from the inside, validating I'm alive. Knowing that I could get by if I took a little ride. Now, where the waves crash, get me closer to God. My only lifeline when the times are hard. I'm doing fine with a pretty facade. Give me about an hour on the boulevard. Don't wait up, unless you part of the fight. Be sure to fill you in when the timing is right. I'm doing fine, but the times are hard. Give me about an hour on the boulevard. On the boulevard. I got one more for y'all. On the boulevard. Yeah, it's been a while, still we close nonetheless. I know a lot of thoughts I have gone and compressed. Life is getting simple, still I'm quick on my toes. You remember how it goes, heating up until you froze. Rose to be a better man, many will not understand. When you're building up your roots, never lay it in the sand. Love is lost, couldn't search my space. Had to move and get away, reinstate my place. We got history, no this ain't farewell. I always have a place with a story to tell. On the boulevard. On the boulevard. Thank y'all so much. My name is Jay Faith. God bless. Take care. What's up?